And one suggestion, let's say you're moving, new apartment, possibility to create new habits. Try to skip the elevator.
Yes.
Go for the stairs. You don't like doing exercise? Go for the stairs. Try it out. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If that sticks, over time, creating that new habit is so much healthier than just jumping into the elevator. And so there's so many little things that often we think are not going to do anything. But when you combine them, when you compound that, it makes a world of difference. Hi, it's Jeremiah, and welcome to the Wake Up Call podcast, brought to you by the Polysleep Studio. Hi, Cheryl. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our new episode of the Wake Up Call. And today is a special episode because I rarely plug my company Polysleep in the podcast, right? And that's fine. But one thing we've realized, and the reason we've developed multiple products, it's all tied to lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And we've seen how great of an opportunity is when people change their mattress to create new habits.
Right.
And also, it made me think of how hard it is without any change of environment or stimulus or in our lifestyle to break a habit. It's almost impossible. You know, you're in that routine, and this routine persists until you change apartment, until you have a new girlfriend, until you have your first kid. But when that happens, it's amazing, you know, with the proper plan, how easy it is to substitute a bad habit with a good one, or unfortunately vice versa as well, right?
Yes, and that's how habits are made and broken. Sometimes, so people, when they make a lifestyle change, often there's some sort of an impetus. One of the most common triggers would be, you know, to get rid of pain, for instance. Yes. That's a huge one. But other times it's a lifestyle thing, you know, where they, like you said, they buy a new mattress and now it's like, oh, well, maybe I should think about my sleep, you know? And then all of a sudden they start researching about it and they're like, oh, hey, did you know that there was a connection between sleep and this, right?
Yeah, I should have watched TV in bed. Oh, I didn't know that, but I've been doing that for 15 years.
Didn't we all have TVs in our bedroom at one point?
You know what? I've never had. And I feel so blessed and lucky that my mother was like, no, absolutely not. It's never going to happen. Even computers, right?
Yeah.
So it probably saved me from a lot of trouble.
Good.
Because I have friends, like you said, they since they're born, it's just automatic. You have to have a TV in your bedroom. But that's probably the worst thing you can have, right?
Absolutely the worst thing. But actually, no, the worst thing is the phone by the bed and scrolling.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about that. But TV certainly doesn't help, right? And especially from the perspective of, you know, lifestyle and building good sleep habits and then associating your sleep space with that.
That's what we're going to talk about today, right? Lifestyle and everything that could affect how good or bad your sleep will be based on how you can change not just your sleep hygiene that we talked about already, but everything that gravitates around that. And the first thing I can think of is nutrition, right? Because we've went a long way, I think, in the most recent years at understanding how nutrition can impact positively your well-being. I mean, as a kid, nobody knew what kale was. And now there's just so many superfruits and superfood and antioxidant that it's just on everybody's mouth and everybody looks at calories and you know, macronutrients and all sort of things. So education went in a good way, but still, I think people tend to underestimate how powerful nutrition is and can affect your sleep.
Yes. And you know what? I wish we had Dr. Arturo Santisteban and here with us. Maybe we could do that another time. We'll have to see. But he worked on developing a program that we have, this guide actually that we have at Somnolence Plus. People can actually go and download it. So maybe that's a little bit of a plug for us too.
That's fine. No, that's good.
But essentially he looked up the relationship between nutrition and sleep. And I had also done some of that work too, but he did the majority of it. And then we ended up partnering with Laura Brigance, who's with True Well Health and Fitness. She's got her Master of Science in Nutrition, and she's also a certified health coach. And we came up with an ebook, actually. And so and also, you know, we put together some videos that we had taken at the last Snooze Fest, which is an event that we held for health, wellness, and fitness professionals to teach them about sleep. And then one of our topics was the relationship between nutrition and sleep.
So important. Yeah. So you know what? We're going to leave a link in the description so that people can go and check it out if you want. But at a high level, what are the do's and don'ts? Obviously, we talked about it. Coffee in the afternoon because it takes a while for your body. You know, it's a no-go. But there's probably good foods to add to your nutrition plan and to avoid. And which one can be impactful for your overall lifestyle and improve your sleeping experience?
Well, overall, in general, what Arturo came up with is that a diet that is a good, healthy diet is actually good for your sleep, which makes sense, right? I mean, whatever will help, you know, the other aspects of your, you know, keep maintaining a healthy weight, for instance, or, you know, something that will give you the energy you need and that's full of nutrients will, if you look at your body as a system, then it's going to help and impact your sleep, right? In a positive way. And the research is tending to show or support this intuitive way of looking at it. So a diet that is full of, you know, varied and plenty of vegetables and fruits is good for sleep. There are other things that, you know, on a macro level, so those people who are looking at macros, so, you know, your macronutrients, what are they? They're, you know, your carbohydrates. You're talking about proteins. Yeah. You're talking about fats, right? How are all of these things related to sleep? So that's what we looked at. And because Arturo came up with this, and I don't want to misquote him. Not that actually I'm quoting it. I've already paraphrased it. And for those of you who could see my notes right now, wow.
There's some highlighted
stuff. And this is where you get to see the nerdy academic side coming out. But
let's bring it out. You
want to bring it out?
What are the recommendations you have there for us?
So basically, here it is. So in terms of healthy eating, a diet high in fruits and vegetables, we talked about that. Diets that are high in carbohydrates and refined sugars tend to affect sleep adversely, and people tend to spend less time in deep sleep. So deep sleep being that slow wave sleep we were talking about, which is M3.
M3 or even REM probably eventually.
Yes, both of those, right? So that's the deep sleep portion of your sleep cycle, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, complex carbohydrates at moderate levels can reduce awakening at night and increase sleepiness. Right? So that actually is good. So remember way back in the first episode, you had asked me what people could have if they get hungry. And I said, you know, have a complex carb like multigrain, cracker, or oatmeal or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why, right? So that might be a good midnight snack for you. Although we don't recommend midnight,
if you're a night owl.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're like really starved because you need to eat something and you haven't eaten properly during the day, then, you know, that is something that you can eat. But then that's, again, when you're talking about lifestyle, it's about making choices or wise choices about how you live your life earlier when you're awake. And now knowing about sleep hygiene, learning how to put that together so you sleep better at night. Hope that's clear. But what else do people have? Do I have here? People who have diets high in saturated fats have worse sleep.
AKA McDonald's. I mean, fast food.
Yeah.
Let's not throw anybody under the bus, right? We're gonna beep that part.
Oh no, yeah, yeah. Or having a diet high, like your dinner full of saturated fats, right? That might be not the best thing to do. However, plant and fish oils, so your omega-3s, may actually be beneficial to sleep. So if it's beneficial for sleep, maybe have that at dinner, choose something that is plant-based or fish-based, and then have, something heavier earlier in the day. Yeah. Not heavier, but with more fat, maybe at breakfast or something.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I recently started back training. Before that, we're all busy and having a business make it often more complicated. You have a very tight agenda. You have limited amount of time. So I was not training. And to compensate, I was doing pretty hardcore intermittent fasting.
Okay.
Like 16 and even 18 sometimes. So it was working okay. I was stabilizing my weight, but my energy level I was surviving the morning on coffee. Basically, you're right. I was not eating because I really enjoy eating at night. I was basically starting to eat at 1 p.m. or 12 and stop eating around 6 or 7 or 8, right? And it worked. I stabilized my weight, but my energy level and my overall capacity to function were drastically affected. Whereas right now, the nutrition plan I'm on it's a polar opposite. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to gain weight. And surprisingly, I started that diet and my energy level went so much higher that I'm actually training 5 times a week now. And I have the energy to do so. Great. Whereas before I was like, I just don't have the time. I don't have the energy. So, and I was like, I'm eating 2 eggs every morning with turkey plus oatmeal. I have a snack at 10:30, then I eat at 12, then I have another snack, then I have my supper, and then I have another snack. And I'm like, I'm going to get a 300-pound plus. Surprisingly, no, I'm actually getting muscle mass and losing weight. So I think you're absolutely right and onto something. It's good food. Whole food is the key there, whereas high processed food, sugar, anything that gives us that instant dopamine level, right? It's great. Having a chocolate or something like that is always cool, but there's always that crash that follows.
Yes. And, I think, looking at insulin levels, and I think if we had Laura with us, this would be something she would focus on is, you don't want that spike up and down, right? So you want to have more or less a consistent level of level of insulin in your body at a certain time. Okay, we probably were going to have to edit that out, but essentially, it's keeping it consistent, right? And then in terms of what we found out so in terms of nutrition, and I think the important thing here is for people to realize that the timing matters too. So that's one of the things that Arturo discovered is that if you end up having complex carbs at night, that's actually, that'll promote sleepiness and it will help reduce awakening at night. So maybe include more of that in the evening, and basically you should be having more complex carbs anyway. But, if you do this in the afternoon, like at lunch, you may feel a little tired after that. And plus there's also the afternoon dip that you're going to experience just as part of, your day, the sleep-wake cycle. There's that dip at around 2 or 3 for people who are more day people. For night people, it tends to happen a little later in the day.
Yeah.
So, so timing is important. And in terms of protein, right? Here's what it says. A higher level of protein intake seems to have a positive relationship with sleep quality. So familiar sources of protein such as meat, poultry, and dairy, nuts such as almonds, lentils, and legumes are, great plant-based protein sources. So that's really interesting to find out, that it has a positive relationship with sleep quality. So they actually had a study. There was a study where they put everyone on a high protein diet for a short period of time, and their sleep quality improved significantly. It's interesting.
I'm not surprised. Like I said, I saw it big time. I'm my intake of protein really went up.
Yep.
And yeah, you sleep better, and also you have more energy, which therefore you kind of feel you have less excuses not to do exercise.
Yeah. Well, you have more energy just in general, so exactly. Then you can actually go to the gym to work out.
Yeah, or take a walk or practice the sports.
Right. And we'll get to that soon. But I just want to add a little interesting fact. So he went through the literature and found out that oysters and sleep.
Oysters?
Yeah, they're actually a good combination. So oysters.
That's cool.
So so if anyone wants to know more, we actually have you can go onto our YouTube and learn more about sleep, and we have Laura talking about the relationship here more deeply, more in depth about the relationship between leptin, ghrelin, sleep, and food, which we talked about before. So I won't go over that right now. No. But that's pretty much what it is. And you already started to talk about the next lifestyle factor, which is exercise.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, breaking these habits for a lot of people is the struggle of their life, right? It's a running gag to say, this is the year I'm going to start going to the gym or go take a walk or doing this or doing that. And unfortunately, people are often detracted by their ritual, by their day-to-day, by their lifestyle.
Yes.
But how important it is
to actually work out and exercise, or even just get movement, right?
Right.
That is important. And can I ask a question? Has Myra's episode played by this time? They will have watched Myra's episode, right?
Yep.
And as Myra said, she ended the episode by saying, everyone, I encourage you to exercise.
True.
So there's a reason for this. It's because in general, they've found that people who exercise more sleep better. And we have Ryan Takagi, who has worked with us on several different projects right now. And we actually had him speak at our last event, working with us. So we brought the sleep portion, and then he brought the nutrition aspect of it. And also but definitely, well, Laura brought the nutrition also, but he brought the exercise aspect. And the reason why is because he studied kinesiology, right? And he's also the rowing coach for the Simon Fraser rowing team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's how we actually ended up meeting him, because he had attended a sleep training workshop that we had given at the university, that Luke and I had given at the university. So he had attended, and he's like, I'm really interested in this. May I attend, because I'm a coach? But that training was only for health and wellness and counseling and the student learning commons. But he was in athletics. So he asked if he could come, and we were like, sure, come. And then it turned out to be a really fortuitous encounter, because his interests and expertise complemented ours.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we had him do is work on a program with us at the last Snooze Fest, and he gave a really interesting talk about the relationship between physical activity and sleep. And so here's something to note. If you exercise 30 minutes of exercise 5 times a week, moderate intensity, or 75 minutes per week at a high intensity, that can actually help you fall asleep
Much better. Yeah.
And think about it. 30 minutes of exercise.
It's nothing.
It's nothing. Moderate intensity, right? What does that mean? Moderate intensity is going for a walk for 30 minutes. Do you see how everything in terms of lifestyle, the recommendations people have in general, 30 minutes of exercise a day.
It's already a lot more than, yeah.
Do you see what well, for years and years, they were saying do 30 minutes of exercise a day, and that can help you in terms of just being fitter. But now we're finding out that 30 minutes of exercise 5 times a week, moderate intensity, can actually help with sleep. And 75 minutes per week, high intensity, can also help with sleep. So 75 minutes, I remember I brought this, I told this to, I shared this information with high school students. And one of them said, oh, that's not a lot. And it's not, it's doable. No, it's not.
It is doable and like you said, it's all about building that habit.
Right.
So it's so personal. Find something you like, straight up. It's, don't force yourself. Don't drag someone to the gym and try to make him feel like he's going to like it if he doesn't. On the contrary, try to push someone in the direction where he's going to enjoy that.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things that we were talking about in terms of sleep routines is bringing that aspect of, I think I used the word, something being pleasurable, right? Something being interesting, something that people want to do, because inherently changing your habits is not something you want to do.
No.
So that is important. If you want to make a lifestyle change in the literature, so the research literature, this is not just me, they say replace a bad habit with another habit, right? Or with another activity that can then become a habit.
Yeah.
Other things in terms of motivation that I just wanted to share, because we're talking about lifestyle, and I think we can't do that without talking about motivation of it, is in terms of setting goals for yourself, right?
Yes.
So
having a plan, basically.
Having a plan, having goals for yourself. Now, the types of goals that you set for yourself can also help or detract. So if you're always focused on the very quantity goals, like I have to do this every single day, and they can help you. A performance goal can help you in the short term, and you probably might do better than someone who's focusing on, say, a mastery goal in terms of learning something, right? Or one where they talk about process as opposed to end result. But that person who has that process-oriented goal will look at it as a lifestyle change.
Which is much healthier often.
Yes, and more sustainable in the long run, because they're focused on, they're focused on making little changes incrementally and then becoming better at those things. And then, saying, hey, look how far I've come. Let's keep going. Another thing that's important is having people around you to support you.
To support that.
Right?
So important.
So, when you're talking about a lifestyle change, you are the company you keep. I didn't want to believe that when I was younger. When you have everyone around you and you're younger and you're like, oh, you are the company that you keep. Whenever I hear that, I hear my parents, right? And now,
but it's so true.
I tell that, yes, now I say that you are the company you keep. So if you, I'm not saying don't have a diversity of friends. I'm just saying that if you are trying to eat healthier, if you're trying to sleep in a better, then you have to find people who are accountability partners. Another thing that will help people to move forward in terms of a lifestyle change is finding a role model, finding someone who you think that, hey, I think that has got it together, at least in this aspect
this is what
of their
I
lives.
aspire to in this very specific aspect.
Absolutely. Right.
True.
And so this is part of actually a research theory that was based on It's the word is basically it's based on extrinsic motivation, and it's by DC and Ryan, and they were looking at there are two researchers, and this theory has been very influential in many spheres of from business to lifestyle changes to health, wellness. And one of the things that they did say is, to what degree do you hold yourself accountable for something? And to what degree do you feel that someone's pushing you to do something? So that's a difference, for instance, for the person who's told by their physician when they go for a checkup and they're told, go home, change your diet. You have to fix that up because you're getting sick. Here, the onus is on doing something you don't want to do, and it's being told to you by someone else, as opposed to, okay, I hear you. I understand why it's important. All right, and someone suggests to you, well, you know what? You may want to look into this. There are these kinds of programs that are available that, we suggest, but really it's you now know what you need to do. You now know what you need to do. We're giving you the information, but in the end, it's your choice in terms of whether you want to move down a healthier path or not. However, depending on the decision you make, know that this is going to be the outcome, right? That places the onus on the person. And when that happens, then they feel accountable. And at this point, what the research says is people do tend to feel that because they're more responsible for it, they take action for it. And then when they're surrounded by people who are also on that same journey, then you can look at each other and say, hey, you know what? I think let's do this together. And especially if you have someone in that group or who it doesn't even have to be someone you know personally, but who you think, like I said, could be a mentor for you in that area. It can do wonders. And then it goes on to say that if you follow this, you may do things you don't want to do. You may say, I don't want to eat well right now. I really want that chocolate chip cookie, or I want those chips, or that McDonald's, or that fast food restaurant. Or in terms of sleep, I want to binge watch Netflix. But you have the support and you have an idea of where you want to get to. You will do it. The chances are greater that you will do it. And then it'll become a habit, and then it'll become internalized. And that is an extremely powerful motivator.
Yeah. So basically, if it comes from you, but then you have the support, external support, to just give you a little tap in the back saying, hey, you're doing the right thing. That's where it's going to be easier to stick, rather than to have someone pushing you to do something where deep down you're not even doing it for yourself. No. That's basically it, right?
No. Well, that's a bit of it, and that's part of it. And then the other aspect is finding that role model and sort of borrowing, if you will, their values for a bit. Even if you say, I don't know, but hey, I don't think setting my, a consistent sleep schedule matters. But they're an authority figure, and, but maybe they know something. Maybe they know something.
Sometimes it works. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. And I think that's fine as well. To give you an example, cold shower. Yeah. I hear that, or cold bath. Yeah. I hear that everywhere. Yes. Right and left. And I tried it and I tried it and I tried it. And I'm like, you know what? Not happening.
Oh, yeah.
For me, I'm like, not happening.
Absolutely. There are things that you will try that won't work for you. However, but the fact is you did try it.
Yeah, of course, of course.
The fact is you did try it. And I think that's the key to lifestyle change, is why do people stick to something and other people not? Yeah. Why is a plan sustainable for some people and for other people, not. And sometimes the issue here is how they perceive.
Perception.
Yes, how they perceive that thing that they're doing, that task, in which case, in this case, it's eating better or sleeping better.
True.
Or working out, right? Do they feel that they have do they feel that the responsibility is theirs, or are they just being told to do it? Mm-hmm. And now, do they have the appropriate people to guide them on this path? Right. True. And I think that sense of community, just to say it simply, is like, do you have that sense of community with you? And I think find people to journey with. Right. And this podcast itself, we're hoping will build that sense of community with all the people who will be like commenting, etc. Right.
And that's actually a great point. If you have any suggestions, and I'll start with one. Leave them in the comments below. I think someone at some point will benefit from it. And one suggestion, let's say you're moving, new apartment, possibility to create new habits. Try to skip the elevator.
Yes.
Go for the stairs. You don't like doing exercise? Go for the stairs. Try it out. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If that sticks, over time, creating that new habit is so much healthier than just jumping into the elevator. And so there's so many little things that often we think are not going to do anything. But when you combine them, when you compound that, it makes a world of difference.
Absolutely. And, that was whole go up the elevator or take the stairs instead of the elevator. I mean, participation. I don't know if you remember participation. But, okay, for those of you who are old enough to remember participation, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, regardless. So, yes, all these little things compound. Yeah. And I think if buying a mattress is what sets it off, then that's it's a trigger.
It is a common element. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Nobody enjoy or have fun. Hey, you know what? Nobody wakes up in the morning and is like, oh, I'm going to change my mattress for fun. No, you probably have something that pokes your back, or you really don't sleep well. Yeah. Or there's family that's coming over and you're missing one, or there's a kid on the way, you moved. That's what I mean by the trigger. And the mattress is just often a consequence of that. Yes. But these consequences are also amazing opportunity to build new habits.
I agree. So, and then as opposed to just doing something and not sticking to it, what we were just discussing about, these are actually things that can help you to make a change and to create the habit and to keep at it in a sustainable way. Yeah. Right. So there you go. Community, find someone who's credible, who you like. Yeah. Right. And learn from them. And then I would also say, educate yourself on what's good for you. So if it's sleep, what's good sleep hygiene? What are your parameters? Yeah. Right? Because once you know what your parameters are, like once you know what the boundaries of good and bad sleep are, you can now arrange your day and your life so that it suits that. So for instance, and let's say you know that you're a mother, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's say you're a mother. You have a child who's going to hockey practice and he has to be there early in the morning.
Talking about lifestyle change. Right? Becoming a mother or parent.
Yes.
That's a big lifestyle change that often is not even an option.
There's no option. You have to deal with it. Yeah. There are non-negotiables there. You have to take care of your child, right? Yes. You have to take care of your baby. And that's the priority. If you have a new family member right there, you're going to be losing sleep. Yeah. Unless, you're super rich and you can hire help to take care of that baby. But for the most part, most people are not.
There's going to be compromise to be made. And how do we make this compromise? Yes. By adapting the lifestyle can have a tremendous impact.
And also, people can actually, sleep is probably like sleep consulting or sleep coaching for adults is relatively new. What we're doing at Somnolence Plus is relatively new. However, sleep training
for kids, so popular.
It's so popular. It's been done for years and years and years.
And it's working well.
Right. And there are different kinds of methods, you know, some that are more controversial than others. And, you know, that could itself be its own episode. Yeah. But you can actually train a baby to sleep well. And what often is missing, though, is the other aspect. How about the parents? What are they doing for their sleep, right?
That's so funny that you mentioned that, because the one I've been exposed to, I don't have kids, right? But it's all around habits, right? They create habits for the kids. So at that exact moment, it's time to eat. And then you create a routine. Now it's time for bath time. And now you create a routine. Now it's time for this. And eventually the kid associate that routine with, now it's time to go to bed and sleep.
Exactly.
But we don't do it for ourselves.
Right? Okay, so I have a story about that. Oh my gosh, I'm using my brother's family, but you know what? That's okay.
We haven't said his name yet, so you're good.
Well, that's okay because he's part of the foundation anyway, so this is part of it, you know? But essentially, I don't have kids myself, but my brother has 4, so... So this is how I know, because when I spend time with them, there are 4 of them. And what I remember with the third one, they actually did hire a sleep trainer. And when I would come over, they're like, okay, this is what you need to do with the third child. You go to the room, okay? You turn on the lights. It was regimented. Wow. Then you go sit him down on your lap, go through a book. Just flip through the book. Then, after that, you know, maybe, you know, play with him a bit.
It's almost like a recipe. It has to be
exactly. Then put him in, I don't remember if it was his crib, but I guess the crib. And then you put him there, lie him there. As soon as you do that, leave and turn off the lights. Turn off the lights and then leave. And that's it. Don't go back inside.
Wow, that's a signal. That's the trigger. And now the kid have to associate that with time to sleep. Right.
And now he's what? Oh, he's, forgot. I feel bad. I'm a bad aunt. But like, but you know, okay, he's maybe around 10, 11 now. Out of he's the one who was trained to sleep. Yeah. He puts himself to bed. No problems.
He goes to bed, close the light, fall asleep.
That's it. If you were to compare his sleep with the other 3, he's the one who probably has the best.
Yeah, because he got conditioned to create these new habits that are probably amazing. Right. From the cradle, from birth, right?
Practically.
So that's very interesting.
It's interesting, right?
And I think we have, the problem is willpower. And like I said, people don't realize that breaking a habit shouldn't be a crusade in itself. Substituting is good enough.
Substituting is great, and it is there in the research literature. And then making sure you have the support, and then remembering too that the onus is on you, that you have control over the situation. And another thing too is, you know, dealing with learned helplessness, right? Some people just think that, no, I'm not going to be able to do anything. It's just always been this way. And this is where now sleep education comes through, or, you know, the things we're sharing here about how you could eat to support better sleep, or how you can work out or movement, just simple movement, just walking around, can support better.
Being active,
better sleep. Yes, actually being active. And knowing this now gives you the tools that you need to create that lifestyle that supports better sleep, and by consequence, just a healthier lifestyle, because you're also employing the other 2 pillars of health, which are healthy eating and physical activity. Yeah. Right. So it's like this holistic view of these different aspects of lifestyle, and then of course time management. And this is where let's go back to that mother. You have your kid. he has to be at hockey practice or whatever. I say hockey practice because we're here in Canada, right? And you have to wake up early, but you are also a Netflix watch. Okay, or can we say Netflix? You also love to binge watch. You TV like show. To binge watch, and so what do? Now you know the parameters of good sleep. You know that you need 7 to 9 hours. 9 hours going.
1 hour before going to bed is a no-go.
No. So are you going to be binge watching at that time, or are you going to be substituting the binge watching for maybe something a little bit more relaxing?
And this is where I think rewarding yourself to do something differently is probably a good way to associate that.
Yes.
Right? So let's say you're not binge watching. Okay, what type of reward could you give yourself that wouldn't impact too negatively your routine, right? Mm-hmm. Would be a good thing at that point.
One of the most powerful rewards is, I'm going back to that motivation theory, but essentially it's verbal praise. Right? It's verbal praise, just telling yourself, hey, so it doesn't even have to come from someone else. Yeah. Like, good job, me. I did it.
That's true. It's true.
Like, good job. Yeah. I got through the day without, doing this. And then also being kind to yourself. And remember, I was talking about those goals that focus on process as opposed to always performance.
Yeah.
Right? If you focus on the process of learning how to sleep well, and you notice that, I can do this better, but you know what? That's okay. It's all part of the journey. Then you keep moving forward, right? However, if you're always just only focusing on, did I hit my targets? Performance, then there's a lot of pressure there. And that's where sustainability can be an issue. Ideally, you'd probably want both. Yeah. Both of them have a role, but, And
you're right. And we're conditioned from, school. It's very KPI oriented, right? It's all about what's at the end. What's the score at the end of that exam?
It could be.
How did you perform, right? So, you know that you mentioned rewarding yourself just with word and be kind to yourself. I think there's probably a reason why people tend to associate meditation or even yoga with something very positive that helps them sleep or just be more balanced, because that reward, that self-reward element is very often associated with a practice of yoga or meditation.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not as familiar. Okay. I've done I've done hot yoga. I've done it more for for working out as opposed to actually following that aspect of yoga. But yes, so I can't speak to that, but I can definitely say that, in terms of mindfulness, which is not yoga, but, there's a relationship in terms of the origin, right? So that actually says, you went through this, accept it. It's okay. Keep going. So one of the practices that you can do in terms of helping you fall asleep. So now we're veering away from that's okay. So we're veering into, meditation or relaxation techniques.
Yeah.
The body scan is a practice, right? It's a technique that you can use, and it comes from the mindfulness literature. Yeah. And what you do is you focus on a part of your body. So it's almost
relax, you focus on your breathing and then relax your hand, your shoulder, your head,
No. Actually, okay. No. That's like progressive muscle relaxation.
Okay. And so that's not the same thing.
Yeah, that's not the same thing. That's coming from a different... it's not coming from the mindfulness literature. Okay. That's coming from something else, right? The mindfulness literature uses more, acceptance. So what they'll say is, okay, so focus on a part of your body. How does it feel? It's It's okay if you have a pain there or if whatever, just notice it, and then accept it. It just is. Now go to another part of your body, so let's start with your, let's say now you go down to your neck. How does your neck feel? Is it a bit tight? Is it okay? Notice it.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Interesting.
Accept it. Not even let it go. Just
accept it.
Just accept it.
Wow.
And then keep going down. And then that's a body scan, like down your body for like, let's say we started at the head and then, that's really that's a body scan. So that's another technique that people have used for sleep. And also for stress management too.
Yeah.
So it's different from progressive muscle relaxation, which is like what we were talking about, right? So, the whole tensing and then letting go, it's different. Or tensing and relaxing, sorry. Other techniques that you could probably use would be, okay, so we're going to have Luke on one of our episodes, right? So, he developed the cognitive shuffle, and he actually has an app, which he'll probably be sharing about. But we tested that app. We conducted research on that app and looked at it in relation to sleep onset. And it was a joint study between Simon Fraser University and l'Université de Montréal, right? Okay. University of Montreal. And essentially, the premise there is that there are some activities that are pro-sleep, pro-somnolence. Somnolence Plus. He's the one who came up with the name Somnolence Plus.
Okay.
So there are pro-somnolent activities. Now, pro-somnolent activities could be, for instance, hypnagogic hallucinations, right? So on sleep onset, this is what happens to your essentially your mind kind of wanders into random images or thoughts during this stage of sleep onset. They're like mini dreams. And so he was saying, how about if we could simulate that, right? Or and simulate it and prime yourself for sleep. So here you would think of something like Apple.
Yeah.
Right? Did I tell you that?
Yeah, you covered. We talked about it.
So and then you go on to something else, and that can also help as well. Other things that people can do in terms of just relaxation. Did I talk about puzzles?
Puzzles?
Yeah.
No. So puzzles like jigsaw puzzles?
Yeah.
Okay.
For some people. Other people might get too into it, but so, again, that's where it's highly individual, but so individualized. But yes, sometimes people like to do puzzles. It keeps them off the thoughts that keep their mind running in directions it shouldn't, like about work, about, maybe relationship issues, things like that. And other things that, you could do. Okay, so I'm going to bring in a practice that I've used even prior to getting into sleep. So I don't know about you, but whenever I used to have a lot of things to do, and I would get overwhelmed, it was almost like there's this huge ball of confusion in my brain, right? And I would have to organize it in order for me to relax. So what I would do is I would write. I would write a list. Yeah. I would write a list. I would go to my calendar, and in the process of writing things out, I would now begin to relax because I am organizing my day. So one of the things and it has been found to actually help. So
it's funny that you mentioned that, and I told you about it.
Yeah.
It's even a running gag. My girlfriend, if she wants me to, or if we book something in a restaurant, she will send me an Outlook invite. My Outlook is run by the clock 7 days a week at 30 minutes. And it's the exact reason for what you're saying. At some point, I became so stressed because I had so many things to do. And I was putting lists and lists and lists of things that I wanted to do. And one day I kind of had that epiphany or that aha moment where I'm like, Jeremiah, you're a terrible multitasker. But I'm great at monotasking for a very short period. So that's why and I don't know if it's similar for other people, I will focus on one single thing for 30 minutes and think about nothing else because I know I'm going to be performant there. But if I try to, tackle 5 things at the same time within 4 hours, it's going to be completely messy and I'm not going to be capable of doing it. So
right.
It's kind of that list you mentioned. Now I just use Outlook. I still make sometimes, tasks on a piece of paper, but that's how I function. And it helped me reduce my level of stress quite a lot because I can look at my day and be like, oh, wow, I've accomplished a lot today.
And right. And isn't that a little bit of a tick off? Doesn't it feel so good when you're like, oh, yeah, did this. Hey, look, I accomplished all of this. And it's sort of self-reward.
Yeah.
Right. You were talking about multitasking. So multitasking is really code switching, right? Task switching, not code switching. Task switching, and we are not very good at it, actually.
I think women are better than men in general.
Yeah, well, what we found is that people just in
general don't
do very well in terms of task switching. So multitasking really is task switching, and people who do it tend to perform less well than if they just focused on one task at a time. Because they think they're doing well. But when you actually look at the scores,
the results.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. Making a list. So one of the things you might want to incorporate at the end of your work day or, that day before you start winding down. So a wind down routine after your work is creating that list for yourself. What did I do today? And what do I still need to do tomorrow? And then put that away, start your wind down. Then later on in the evening, build in your good habits of instead of watching TV and binge watching, maybe do something else. And then, begin your bedtime routine. Yeah.
And for some people, I mean, like you said, we do lists or agenda, but some people love journaling.
And you know what? That's great. That's a really good suggestion. And I was just about to mention journaling, and it is part of what a lot of sleep coaches do recommend is just if you're thinking of something, you might want to have a journal that you keep by your bed and then you put it in the drawer. It doesn't actually have to be in your room. Maybe you could do it and keep it somewhere else to tell you the truth. But
I like it. I wish I was good at journaling. It's just like I said, my journaling is basically my outlook. My short-term memory is just so bad that if I had to think back at everything I did at the end of the day, I would be like, I don't remember. Right. So, journaling must be definitely.
You're also the CEO of Polysleep. So this is something to remember. You can't be too hard on yourself too. Not that you're hard on yourself, but I'm just saying one of the things that we're busy people. We have so many things to do, all the time. And I'm not just talking about CEOs, but, as a CEO, I can imagine, right? Is. Well, actually, wait, what am I thinking? I'm president.
You're in the same boat.
I'm in the same boat. I just don't call myself a CEO. But you have a bigger team. And so it makes sense that you would need to organize your day and that your short-term memory for these tasks are you only have a limited amount of memory to work with, right?
Fair enough.
So
that's true.
So,
I would love an upgrade, but unfortunately they haven't come with it yet.
Take a power nap.
Take a power nap.
Take a power nap, because then that will move things from temporary storage to more permanent storage and the parts of your brain that correspond to that. But essentially, that's so the theory goes, and it seems to be based on the research. I think I talked about that a couple of episodes ago, I hope. I think that's the case. But yes, so there are these aspects of our lives that we can manage, and it's not only about sleep hygiene.
It's everything around it.
It's everything around it and what you do earlier in the day. I think time management is also a big issue. So one of the things that I've wanted to do in terms of programs is have time management be part of the sleep program. Because, if one of your issues is organizing
and I just
your
want to
day.
say, don't think time management as the Pomodoro method where everything has to be tied at 30 minutes, right?
No.
It works for some. It doesn't work for others.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that.
Yes.
Time management doesn't mean like it's an extra job on itself.
Mm-hmm. It's just learning how to prioritize. Okay, prioritization for those people who find, time management, I feel like I'm going to, a course or something on scheduling. But no, it's just learning how to make decisions about the things you need to do during the day, what's non-negotiable for you, and what's negotiable, and things that you should change because really they're not serving you well.
So I'm going to be blunt because I think there's a problem in our society, generally speaking and genuinely speaking.
Okay.
Everybody who have an iPhone, I would really challenge them that are listening right now to look at screen time.
Oh yeah.
I would most likely say they're probably between an hour and a half to 4 hour plus, right? And now I'm going to take the same people who are working from home. I would guesstimate 60 to 70% of them are not even taking a day walk every day.
I agree.
Which is 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And again, these people are going to be like, I can't fall asleep, or I haven't seen the sun, or,
30 minutes. Yeah.
And I mean, we're going to talk about the benefits of technology in certain case, but at the same time, and I'm a victim of that, or I mean, I'm a culprit, I should say, not a victim. My screen time is probably close to 3-4 hours as well, right?
Right.
Now I take the time to do that walk, and I go to the gym 5 times a week, and I'm trying to readjust these to be healthier because I just see all the benefits. But how do people, or because I don't want to put some guilt on everyone,
exactly.
right? We have the time. How do we readjust that? And talking about that walk, just seeing the sun once a day shouldn't even be an option, right?
It should. You need sun. And you know what? I would say that we live in Montreal.
Yeah.
In the wintertime, it gets dark very early.
That's the hardest thing for me.
Really?
The winter, the cold, not a big deal.
Yeah, same.
But that month where you wake up, it's dark. You go back from the office home, it's dark.
Yes.
I found it extremely hard.
Right? Now, yes, so that is a challenge. And you need the sun, first of all, for sleep, the entrainment aspect of it, making sure that you entrain to the 24-hour day. Very important. The next thing that's important is the vitamin D aspect of it. We need that. And that is a big issue for everybody in the winter.
Yeah.
So the seasonal affective disorder, right? So that's where you have light therapy lamps. Sometimes you might want to buy a light therapy lamp.
Yeah, we talked about it, I think, with very quickly.
Yes.
With Greg.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I think Greg.
Did we?
Obviously, we talked about
the He Light, but we also talked about possibly, probably. So those, yes, we did. So those lamps that you use for SAD, right? Well, those are also lamps that you could use for lights that you could use for night owls to advance their sleep phase. And in the winter, because it's so dark, for a night owl, it's really hard because already their gear, like they don't get as much sunlight as other people, because they're, if they stay true to their schedule, because they'll wake up later in the day. So making sure that you have enough vitamin D, and it's also hard to do that when you're covered up because it's cold.
It is.
So That's why we have vitamin D through nutrition. So if you're a night owl out there, and I know because I'm one too, then make sure you're...
Take vitamin D.
Yeah, take your vitamin D. Make sure you have that. Try to get as much sun as you can.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not the best time to be exposed. You know, they say that when you get vitamin D from the sun, you should expose your arms, etc. I'm not doing that in minus 40, which was last week, 2 weeks ago, right? So,
not fun.
Well, no, what, 2 weeks? Yeah. Anyway, no. It's not minus 40 2 weeks ago when we're recording. Let's just take that out. But you know what I mean. But anyway, so that's a really important thing. So in terms of vitamin D, it's less about, you know, helping you fall asleep, but making sure that you're healthy if you are a night owl. That's one thing that I will always recommend.
Yeah.
Yes. And in terms of screen time, so we talked about screen time. We talked about light. We
talked about it. One thing that I want to mention about night owl, and that's a bit of a taboo for a lot of people.
Okay.
There's different type of people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of couples.
Okay.
And some people took the decision at a certain age or in certain circumstances to, you know, have separate rooms.
Right.
During the week, let's say, or for many reasons. It could be, you know, health reasons, sleep apnea. It could be a partner that is just being waken up at any single movement or sound. And having a partner can drastically impact your lifestyle, right? How people should tackle that, because sleep, it's your own sleep, right? It's not because your partner sleep well or not that it's going to impact you, but ultimately everything that gravitates around that have a very important impact on the quality of your sleep. So is there any suggestions there, or could we break any taboo to say, you know, it's okay if you want to be in a separate room because you sleep better? Well, that has nothing to do with public opinion. Just do it.
Do it. In fact, you know, it might actually help your, if you don't have the same schedule and you're going to be waking another person up because you're going to be, I don't know, preparing for bed, and for them, they're already sleeping. Yeah. Then have separate rooms. If one person snores and the other person doesn't, or both of you snore, have separate rooms. I mean, we lived like that for many, many, many years until relatively recently. I mean, I can even say that, can't speak for everyone, but I know that in, at least in the Filipino culture, at one point, people slept in separate beds, even if they were married, you know? So, and I'm talking about my grandparents' age, right? So it's not that far off. Then, of course, with my parents' age, it was different. But you know what I mean? So it's absolutely, I think, acceptable. And I do know of one sleep coach who does recommend it.
Really? Yeah?
Yes, he actually recommends that. He actually does recommend that. He does. You might. So.
Well, I mean, at least from my perspective, and it's funny because we've worked with a known radio host in Quebec.
Okay.
For a campaign we did back in the days, and she ended up really enjoying our product, our mattress. And the reason for that, and I was like, wow, that's such a funny testimonial. It's because as a radio host, she was in the morning show. When you talk about waking up early, it's crazy how these guys like wake up early. They have to be at the station by 4 a.m.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Kill me
so
now.
Obviously, she have to go to bed super early.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Her husband is the biggest hockey fan you can think of.
Oh, no. Yeah. Okay. Right? So you're finishing watching the game pretty late at night. Yeah.
So what was happening is that her previous mattress was traditional spring mattress, and spring are known to have a lot of motion transfer. And she was like, to me, it was just normal. when my husband will go to bed, he's going to wake me up.
Oh.
That was just normal.
Yeah.
And she said, since I moved to your mattress, I'm like, thank you so much, because I'm still asleep. He goes to bed. I don't even realize it. And I'm like, wow, that's good in your case. But I can thinking of a light sleeper who, whatever the person do, just opening the door will wake her or him up. It's just so important that you have the proper amount of rest every night that you should potentially consider at least trying out. Try it out and see if it improves your sleep, because some people are really, really affected by that.
Yes.
And we have that moral pressure from everyone around it. Oh my God, you're not sleeping in the same bed. Well, it doesn't mean, because I think a lot of people associate that with, they don't have sexual activity or whatever.
Oh, there's a problem in their marriage or in their relationship because they're not sleeping in the same bed. Oh, you're not sleeping here tonight. Oh my goodness, what's going on?
Right.
But it doesn't have to be that way, just because that, that might be the norm nowadays, but it wasn't always the case. And maybe in certain cases, it is better that you don't share a bed.
So I'm happy we touched upon that, because I can feel like it's a taboo in our society to touch on this very specific. So think about it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for the audience, think about it. That being said, there are, I think, benefits also sleeping with a partner, right?
Yes, there are.
Okay, so let's touch upon that.
Okay, so they do tend to have less, better sleep quality and less nighttime awakenings. Actually, you know what? I have this down in terms of my notes. Just going to quickly look. Okay, guys? Mm-hmm. Because there are 4 things, and right now I can't remember the other 2, but it's here. What question was that?
So we've talked about, how important it is to value the quality of your sleep, but partners.
Okay.
There's benefits to sleeping with your partner.
Right. So here are some benefits. Okay. People who had a sleep partner, as long as that partner was not a child or a pet, okay, they slept for longer, experienced fewer bouts of insomnia, and this is related to, it's pretty much related to stress levels, right? Okay. So in that they tend to experience less stress and anxiety in life and more life satisfaction in general when you have a partner in your life, right? So it could be related to that. That's as much as it goes into in terms of the study itself. But we do know that, having a partner in many cases, you have somebody who can support you, but I don't know whether, I wouldn't say that just because you're not sleeping in the same bed, you can't have those things, because those things like feeling like there's someone for you to talk to about your issues, you can have and not even be in the same bed.
Yeah, you could have like a 30 minutes moment where you just hug each other, you talk to each other, and then you know what? Instead of me waking you up 7 times because I'm going to move too much, right, or because I snore, or God knows what, you could have a proper night's sleep. Right. But I wanted to say that there's also pros, and not just.
Sorry. Yeah. Go on.
No, that's what I wanted to say. There's pros.
Absolutely. There are pros. And we do see it in the literature as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So much about lifestyle, but ultimately, I think the takeaways here are habits. We're a creature of habits. Mm-hmm. And to incorporate a healthy lifestyle, just like sleep, but also nutrition, a bit of exercise, trying to recover that with Greg, reducing exposition to blue light when not necessary, will have a tremendous impact. And that we know it's hard, but there's a way, especially when moments of life happen to create new habits that will ultimately positively impact your lifestyle.
Yes. And then make sure that you surround yourself with people who can help you move forward towards that goal. And if you do it enough times, the habit does develop. And then once you start feeling the benefits of that, it's no longer someone else's values. It becomes something that you internalize yourself because you realize that, hey, it's kind of good. Like I think you mentioned that earlier. Once you started to feel the effects of getting good sleep because you were using the CPAP machine, it's like, okay, well, this is now positive reinforcement for that behavior, right? So.
And I'm looking forward for our next episode because there's a way to monitor that through technology. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And you could see visually, not just feel it. You will feel it, but you'll see also visually like, oh, I had better, deeper sleep. I slept my 7.5, 8 hours.
Well, yes, we'll touch about that and go more deeply into the use of wearables and what those stats mean, because there are different issues there. Mm-hmm. It can be great for, like I said, nothing is ever 100% one good or bad. There's always something. Yeah. And I think that's going to be really interesting for people to learn about.
It's going to be an interesting talk for sure. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And what, do we have anything else to?
Well, we have a couple of things. Actually, the debunk question is a funny one.
Okay.
And I want to change the question we received, which is, can we actually swallow spiders in our sleep? To something way creepier.
Oh my gosh.
Which was, I think, on average, a human being through his lifespan is actually swallowing X amount, and I don't remember the X amount of insects, but that has nothing to do with how dangerous, good or bad it is. So can we swallow spiders as we sleep? Well, the odds are probably low, but
maybe it could happen.
Well,
but can I tell you? I'll share another story. Oh my goodness, I'm sharing so many stories. But I actually looked this up. I looked this up a couple of years ago for myself. I was like, what are the chances of us? Because I saw a spider and it freaked me out a little. So you know what? I have a habit of sleeping with the sheets over my head. Yeah.
Because of that?
Yeah. I was like,
that's hilarious.
So I actually looked it up and I was like, oh God. Maybe if I put like earplugs, it won't, go in. No, I'm just kidding. But for a while I did that because it freaked me out a bit. And so yeah.
But I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there that think exactly. So the question is, can we? I mean, yeah.
I looked it up. And they said that the chances are low. Probably could happen, but they said that we are relatively large creatures. They'll want to stay away from us, and they are sensitive to our heartbeat and our breathing. So they would be able to tell that, and movement. So they would be like, okay, that's not a safe space for me. Yeah.
Well, so, you'll probably swallow a bunch of mosquito and flies if you go camping often.
Oh, I've done that several times. Or riding your bike.
You know what? That is the most painful thing that can happen. I used to have a motorcycle.
Oh, okay.
And there's a reason why they say close your window.
Oh, the visor?
Yeah, the visor.
Yeah.
At 100 kilometers per hour, a fly in your forehead hurts so much.
Oh my gosh.
It's so painful.
Oh no.
So yes, that has nothing to do with sleep, but yeah.
That's gross.
It is quite painful.
Sorry, that's kind of gross.
It is quite painful.
Yeah, painful and just...
there's nothing left. Yeah. It's just red.
Oh.
It's, funny...
Yeah. Funny anecdote. Yeah. So there, we ended up with bugs.
Yeah. So bugs, yes, you might end up swallowing bugs in your life. Don't worry. I don't think there's any case of... I don't want to say anything to creep people out, but don't worry about it.
No.
Don't worry about it.
It's all fine. There you go.
Janeth, do we have any other question from the people?
We have a question from Dave. Can I make up for lost sleep on the weekend?
I'm about to answer this one right away.
Do it, please.
Absolutely not. You're not going to make up for it. that sleep is gone, and that's going to impact you for a couple of days. And trust me, the older you get, the worse it's going to be.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, but you can maybe give a better scientific explanation behind that.
Well, what I could say is that, you accumulate sleep debt, and sleep debt, there's always interest that you have to pay, right? And the thing is, so what you could do is you could try to make up for it, but there's only so much that you can recover.
Yeah.
And so, no, you really can't make up for it on the weekend.
No.
And in fact, by trying to do that, you're just perpetuating the issue. So the best thing to do would be, I don't mean to say it like in a way that where I'm like accusing people.
No, but we know it. Go to bed always at the same time.
Yeah.
Hopefully wake up always at the same time.
Yes.
That's the best way to do it, right? So
right, but I think that's the thing. It's just we need to. So I'm not going to say you, we, including me. We have to make sure that we can keep that consistent sleep schedule, because honestly, sleep debt accumulates, and there's not much you can do to. There really isn't any way to recover what you've lost, and you can actually just end up compounding the effect over time if you don't sleep well.
I think, Dave, and that's okay. Everybody at some point will not respect their schedule.
Yes.
And that's okay. But ultimately, create that consistency where you go back to it.
Well, yes. And, we were talking about lifestyles and children. There will be a point in parents' lives where you're going to be sacrificing your sleep.
Yeah.
And yes, your sleep health. Yes, this is true, but you're doing it for a really good reason that's worth the sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
It's for your child.
And also, like you said, I'm looking forward to have the episode about, alcohol, drugs, lifestyle, because entertainment or certain industry, in my case, I don't travel much. But I know some of my friends who are C-level and CEOs of company where they're in a different continent on a weekly basis.
Yes.
And jet lag is just, part of the game. Wow, it's hard.
It's tough. And I think, in terms of jet lag, I think we all many people now have traveled. I mean, there's some people who haven't traveled across time zones, and I understand that. But for those of us who have, we can experience jet lag even an hour away, Given that, there's also the effect of chronotype. So, did I mention this before?
No, we did not.
Okay, so for night owls, sometimes it can actually be beneficial to stay on that jet lagged time zone when you're going 3 hours west, because now you are living at the same 9 to 5 schedule as everybody else. So when someone calls a 9 o'clock meeting, which is a killer normally, you can make it for that. And you can make it for that.
That's
right?
interesting.
Sorry, I spit. So let me just, so when you have like a 9 o'clock meeting, you can actually make it for that. And I think that I think this is one of the good things about knowing chronotype is now that you understand what chronotype is, how it could affect your sleep schedule. When you think of things like jet lag, once you're going, 6, 7, it's tough for everybody. But if I'm going from Montreal to Vancouver, that's actually pretty good for me. Conversely, going from Vancouver back to Montreal
is a nightmare.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right? And so depending on your chronotype, that advice that they say, which the general advice is this for jet lag, adjust to the time zone that you're going to be in as soon as possible.
As fast as you can. Yeah.
Not smart if you are a night owl and you're going to be out of sync with everybody else there.
That makes sense.
Right? So So it does get a little complex. But again, if you are going on a trip, you might also want to start adjusting your bedtime.
Your cycle, basically, a bit before.
Yes. Move it. Yes, exactly. A bit before, like maybe within the week before you leave.
It's going to be a hard one if you go to Hong Kong, but you can try.
Right? You've done that.
It's
Yes.
You know what's worse, I think?
What?
The flight.
Right.
Because
you're right. It's crazy, right? Because then you have, so sometimes it might even be, sometimes it's the flight and the jet lag.
Multiple jet lags.
Right.
Because you might stop for 6 hours there and then have an extra. Flight attendant, I don't know how they do that.
It's challenging.
Oh my God, it must be.
Well, I know people who, I've spoken to people who are in that industry, and they find it very hard. Like they think about their sleep a lot.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and so jet lag, not fun, but it is temporary. You'll get back to normal eventually, but it is really challenging.
So that was a long answer for Dave's question, but a good one. Jenny, do we have any other question?
We have one more question from Simi. What is the best way for me to adapt to school faster during the week when I have night shift work on the weekends?
Oh, that's a good one, because we know we all have these friends that work in bars, study, and it could be a recipe for disaster because you can't balance that.
No, that's where, you kind of have to make a choice. You have to say what is negotiable and what's not negotiable in terms of, there are situations that we find ourselves in where it will not be optimal for your sleep or your health. True. But you need to do it to survive. Yeah. Right? So, the good part here, right, is that if you have to wake up for school, I don't know if this person is in university, if they're in university or college, or college.
So let's pretend let's pretend they go to a normal 9-to-5 schedule, 5 days a week at school.
And then they work.
And they work the weekend at night, which I think is something very common, in the bar or clubbing industry.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Okay. So if they work at night and they finish it around 9 or 10, that's still relatively manageable, because at that age, if you are, going 9 to 5 during the day, you're younger, your chronotype will tend to be more delayed anyway, right? Yeah. You just now need to focus on making sure that you keep your sleep hygiene as good as possible. Maybe you won't get as much sleep on a regular basis, but try to still keep that consistency.
To have at least good sleep when you do.
Yeah. And then at that point, maybe a power nap here or there.
That's what I was thinking about. Maybe a nap would be a good idea.
Yes, because if you are exhausted, you should be helping your body, and that nap will help you, right? Then I would say, if this is going to be a long-term thing, is there any way for you to find another, if it's a temporary, is it a job that you that you can get out of and maybe find an earlier shift, you know?
But at the same time,
it's hard.
In this case, I can think of artist.
Yeah.
Let's say producer who's a performer. He's going to have that 9 to 5 day or 9 to 9 for a month where he's producing song or producing something. When it's time to go on tour, it's going to be the complete polar opposite, right? It's driving, busing, flying during the day, concert at night.
Yes.
So this is where you need to readjust.
I think at that point, it's about, okay, I know this is a very extreme example, but it's a bit like going off to war. Obviously, war has bigger consequences on your life, but the reason why I put it that way is because your body is essentially treating it in the same way. It's a crisis.
Survival.
It's survival. It's crisis, right? So what you would need to do, if you could find a way to manage your schedule, or, have your team be more aware that, hey, sleep is important. And then work with that team in finding a schedule and a routine that would work for you. And this is what athletes need to do.
Yeah.
So we're talking about artists, and I would say artists they have a very challenging time because they are traveling all the time. And
and often they're not taking care of their body as much as an athlete, right? There's often alcohol or drug involved. So
yes,
we're gonna touch on that with our guest in a couple of weeks from now. But
I just wanted to add one more thing. Now let's just assume that person who's working 9 to 5 and who works at night has the option, like if they're in Cégep or college or they're in university, then you know what? Can you change your school schedule to match?
So, having night class.
Having night classes, there are options, right? So this is where now you become more cognizant of the things you can do also, not just the things you can't, but the things you can do. So see if that class has a counterpart at night, or like I said, try to balance it out. And then if not, then you're in pretty much crisis situation. And it's about now making sure that you try to get as much sleep as you can, keep it consistent, and use napping as a tool for you. I hope that helps.
Yeah, good luck with that. Any other question? Okay. We're good? Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Cheryl, once again.
You're welcome.
Great episode. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. If you like it, please subscribe. Leave us a comment below. We would love to answer your question on next episode. Or if you have any suggestion about the podcast itself, the wake-up call is really something we made for you guys. So let us know. And we would love to adapt based on your feedback. Thank you once again for being with us, and we'll see you next Monday.